Today I wanted to show you a beautiful way to create shimmer and shine on the background of any card project. And although Emboss Resist creates a shiny, glossy look, adding glitter pens into the mix will create a background that is so beautiful it needs no focal image at all. Let me show you the tools and products you're going to need to do this technique. First, you're going to need some Versamark ink, and you're going to need a line art image, and I'm using the little sprig plant from the new Cool Beans stamp set. It's currently our new 1 free with 3, so when you buy any 3 stamp sets you get this set for free. And I love this little sprig. It's such a nice little botanical, so even if you don't want to make a coffee card, this is a nice stamp in that set. Then you're going to need a little bit of clear embossing powder, and I'm using the Ranger Superfine Detail Embossing Powder. You're also going to need an anti-static pad, and what this does is this removes any oils, dirt, or debris, or anything sticky that's on the surface of your card. This way, when you pour your embossing powder on, it will only stick to the ink. I have here a Sakura glitter pen, and this is the Clear Star. I have a piece of the Gina K Designs Heavy Base Weight Ivory cardstock. And then I have 3 ink pads. They're all Distress inks. One is Bundled Sage, Crushed Olive, and Vintage Photo. And then, of course, I have one of the Ink Essentials foam applicators to apply the ink onto my cardstock. So to begin, I'm going to start off first by rubbing the entire surface of this piece of cardstock with this anti-static pad. And it's real easy to get anything onto the surface of your cardstock that the embossing powder would stick to. For example, I use a lot of hand lotion, so even the tiniest little bit that might stick on there is going to ruin my project. That's why this little tool is so great. Now, I'm going to ink up my image with some Versamark ink, and I'm going to randomly stamp this image all over the surface of my piece of paper. Now, you're not going to be able to see this image because it's hard to pick that up on the camera, but when you're doing this in real life and you have the piece of cardstock and everything in front of you, you can see it. What it does is it leaves a nice little watermark, just enough that you can see with your eye so that you know where you've stamped and you won't stamp over an area that you've already stamped on. And just a few more little sprigs here. And you can notice that I am turning the stamp as I go, and also I'm stamping off the cardstock. So I'm not just stamping inside the piece, but I'm allowing my image to overlap off the side. And that's what makes the piece of cardstock look a little bit more like a piece of patterned paper. With these big studio lights in here, I can't really see as well as I can when I'm working in my own studio, so I may have gone over and overlapped a little bit here, but that's okay. You get the idea. So next, I'm going to take some of this clear embossing powder, and using a piece of extra cardstock, I'm going to let that fall onto that extra cardstock, and that's going to make it easier for me to put it back into the little jar. Flip it over and make sure you don't touch the edges. Or, I'm sorry, the surface. Just hold on to the edges. Now I can see an area that I missed. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go back and grab that Versamark pad and fill that one little area in with the image. And then pick it up again and add a little bit more of that powder. And you could do that too. It's a lot easier to see where you've stamped once you've put the embossing powder on because it's raised and you can see it better. Okay, I'm going to put that aside for a second, and then I'm going to replace. You can see how nice and easy it makes replacing all that embossing powder if you use a piece of folded cardstock. And then I do have a little bit of excess here that I'm just going to brush away. Now, using a heat tool, and I'm using the Marvy heat tool, I'm going to emboss the surface of this card, and I will start to be able to see my image come up nice and shiny. And the fine detail powder does come up very quickly, so you want to make sure that once it gets shiny, that you move on to the next area. because you don't want to burn the cardstock. Okay. Now once that cools, and it does just take a minute or so to cool, you're going to begin by picking up your lightest color first. And I'm going to use the Distress ink in Bundled Sage. I'm going to ink up my tool and add some of that color. And don't worry if it doesn't look perfect. That's okay. The whole idea behind this is to blend these colors together. So the next color is going to help that blend. My next color is going to be the Crushed Olive. And I'm going to ink that up. And I know I'm just taking that same applicator and going right over, but it's not really mixing inks too much because most of the ink rubbed off onto my piece of cardstock. I'm just going to add this in a couple little areas. Leave a little bit of that sage showing through. And my last color is going to be the Vintage Photo. And I really don't want that to be too dark, so I am going to rub a little bit of it off first before I start to rub over the cardstock. So I want this to be nice and light. I don't want it to take away too much from the greens. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit more. But you can see how nicely these colors just blend together. Isn't that a beautiful combination? The next step is to take a piece of paper towel and rub over the surface of your images. This way, any ink that is laying on top of your embossing powder will come off onto your paper towel, but it will stay on the cardstock. Okay. Now next, and this is where all the fun comes in, all the glitter and sparkle, I'm going to take this Sakura Clear Star Jelly Roll pen. I always start mine a little bit on my scratch paper off to the side. And you're going to color in all of the insides of the leaves. This is actually really fun to do. It's very soothing and relaxing. You can do this with other colors of Sakura glitter pen too, but what I like about using the Clear Star is it kind of blends with whatever color your background is. So all it does is add glitter and sparkle and doesn't add any additional colors. And here's my finished card project. And what you can see what I've done here is I've taken the word celebrate from Teresa Momber's Celebrate the Season stamp set and just added a little strip of ivory across the center with that greeting stamped on there in some rich cocoa memento ink. And then I've taken two of our white flowers and put a copper brad in the center, and I just rubbed a little bit of the Vintage Photo ink on there, and then I sparkled those up too. Now, watch what happens when I pick up the card. You ready? Look at all of that sparkle. Isn't that gorgeous? And so most people, when they open this card at home, their lighting at home will make it look like that. Isn't that pretty? So much glitter and so much shine. Try this technique with flower stamps or any beautiful background stamps that have open spaces for adding glitter and sparkle.